part 2, the reassembly. Okay, so just in reverse order really. So first thing you want to do is with the loading gate, is pop that in. So you take your loading gate and the little screw. Okay, it's that little screw with the threads all the way along. And I find the best way to do this is, again, pop your finger inside, pop the loading gate through the hole on top of your finger, and then keep pressure, an upward pressure, okay, to keep it in place. It's a bit fiddly trying to do it with the camera. Take the little screw and pop that in, and just be really careful with the threads on this one because it is just a tiny little screw. Okay, get that started. And then just make sure that your loading gate is inside the receiver, not sticking out and getting caught up. Okay, so just keep a little bit of pressure on it, finger pressure, whilst you do up that little screw. And that should help to get it in the right position. You might need to fiddle about with that just to get it perfectly okay. Right, so next thing to go back in then is the carrier. And it's these two little screws, okay? They're like a mirror image of each other, they're identical. Don't get it mixed up with the bolt pin stop screw, okay? Because it looks the same, but it's not, okay? So make sure you get the two right screws. And they're basically inside the rifle. Your carrier sits on them like so. Okay, that's what enables it to swivel. All right. Oops, take that out. So I'm going to have to look inside the rifle again. Take your carrier, it goes back in that way. Okay. Up underneath. I'm going to have to look at what I'm doing. And then it should just slide gently into position. Okay. And then what you need to do is sight down through this hole. Use your little drive and make sure the hole is clear before you put the pin in. Alright. And take the little screw, drop that in, and then away you go, tighten that up. If you feel resistance about this point, then stop, because what you're doing is doing the screw up against the side of the carrier, okay, and that way you can wreck the threads. So just leave it loose, flip it over, pop the other one in. And the same, if you feel any resistance, just stop what you're doing. So, and then flip it back over, knit this one up, and then knit that one up. And remember, there's a fine line between tightening something up and stripping the threads. Alright, what you can do is just push back. I'm going to have to look again. Push back on that and it should flip up. You should be able to push it down with relative ease. Okay, and that's the carrier back in. So, next thing then is the bolt assembly needs to go back in. So, take your ejector, your spring, and your little back collar goes on that way around. Okay, take your bolt, and we're going to go into that hole there. So pass that up into the bolt and line up those lugs at the bottom. Okay, now that's already got tension on it. I've changed the spring out on mine. I've got an aftermarket spring, which is brilliant. It makes the collecting the brass afterwards so much easier and helps with cycling the rifle. Okay, I'll assume you've still got the stock Rossi spring in there, which is quite tight. So you need to let this little collar slip underneath this dog leg so it's free underneath it, okay? So there's no tension on the spring. So it's just sitting in there freely. Then what you need to do is take your empty shell or your dummy round, okay, pop it into the bolt face as if it would be chambered on a live round, okay, and then with a downward pressure with your drive, with your screwdriver, keep your fingers back out of the way, push down on the collar until you get a positive engagement there with the spring and the collar on that dog leg. Okay, and then holding the things tightly because it will just want to eject off the face of the bolt. Keep a hold of it. Bring your receiver back, and then you're going to pass it in, keeping a downward pressure on the round. Pass it back into the receiver and partly chamber it. Just to about there roughly. Okay, just remember, don't pull back on here because it will eject. Right, take your lever assembly. Okay, it goes that way round. Okay, so take a good look at that. Alright, so take that lot and then offer it up into the receiver in one piece. And then with a bit of a wiggle and a bit of luck, you should be able to find the right place. Okay, now what you need to do, if you look in that hole, you can see if I move the lever around, I can block and unblock the hole. I'll get a bit of shine off the receiver there. Okay, so what you need to do is sight down through, take the pin, and you've got a serrated edge and a chamfered edge. This chamfered edge in first. Okay, so look down, I'm going to have to do it, sight down through the hole and make sure it's fairly clear, drop the pin in, and then as you just move the lever around a little bit, just push on the pin and it should locate. Okay, and then you need to finish it off with the drive. Just be careful of the threads there, and this is where some people make a mistake with the reassembly, okay, because they don't always drive this pin in far enough. This pin has to go all the way in like this till I contact the very side of the bolt with the drive. Okay, and then make sure that that is definitely in flush with the side of the bolt. If it's not, it will lock everything up. Okay, and people have said, I put the rifle together but I can't open the lever. It's one or two things. I'll tell you the other thing in a minute, but it's either this pin is not in all the way, okay, but this one is now, so I should be able to open the lever and check that around. Okay, so it's either that pin or this little screw, the bolt pin stop screw, which goes back in here from factory, is too long. And I know that seems odd because you think, well, it was already in the rifle, but what they do is if it is too long, they just don't over tighten it, which is a bit naughty, but it's what they do. So, and the other reason is then if you nip that up, sometimes if that screw has been too long, that also will lock the action up. So then you have to go back, take the screw out and just take a bit of length off this screw. Just a little touch at a time until you've freed it up. Okay, so just check now, make sure the ejector's still in the face of the bolt, which it is, and also in this position you can also check the operation of the carrier. Okay, that operates fine. So what we need to do now, whoops, other way, is pop the hammer assembly back in so it goes that way round. Just drop the lever slightly, offer it up through the upper tang, okay? And what you don't want is you don't want it to sit out on top of the tang like that. You can take a long time trying to get everything in the right position and realise that's out, and it's a bit frustrating. So make sure it's inside, okay? So next thing then, take your lower tang, and I find it's best just to grip it like that. Offer it into the receiver into the right position, okay? And then make sure that the end of the rod is definitely located into the block, okay, so it's freely going into the block. If it's just on the outside edge of the block like this, if it's not quite fully in, okay, and your tang is a tight tang and you need to tap it in with a hammer and a piece of wood, if you start hitting it in and that it's caught, your rod is caught on the block, you'll bend the rod and you don't want to do that. So make sure it's definitely located inside, okay? And then with the hammer in the right position and keeping a backward pressure on it slightly, just wiggle your receiver, lower tang into the receiver until it's in the right place. Okay, now if you look down into that hole, you'll see that the hole is slightly blocked. That's because my lower tang's not fully in. So just a little bit more pressure and there we go. And now the hole's clear. Also with the hammer, you can see that I can block and unblock the hole with the hammer. So make sure the hole is clear before you try and put the screw in. So you should have 2 screws left, okay? Whoops. It's the smaller screw that goes in now, into there. Okay, and if you just pull on the trigger, it should just seat itself in, and you can go ahead and do that up. Like so, okay. And now what you're free to do is take the wire out, so I'll just straighten it out, it makes it easier to pull out. And then again, just wiggle the hammer back a little bit until you loosen it so you can extract it from the rod. Okay, so all that's left to do now is just test the mechanism, make sure everything's as it should be, okay. Feels fine to me, so I will replace the butt. You should only have that long screw left now, which is your upper tang screw, goes right the way through. If you've got anything else left, then you need to go back and reassess what you've done. And like with anything with a firearm, if you're not happy with what you're doing, then don't do it. Take it to a gunsmith, okay? Stay safe. Alright. So that's the Rossi M92 put back together. So what I'll just do now, I've got these dummy rounds. I've got 5 of them. And they are dummy rounds, and I will just use them to cycle them through just to make sure everything's as it should be. Now one of these rounds is slightly oversized, and it is prone to jamming just on the one round, and I don't know which one it is. So I'm doing it at a funny angle, it might jam, but let's see. I think it was that last one, just felt a bit rough. Okay, so there you go. Rossi M92, disassemble and put it back together. Okay, hope some of you find that interesting. Thanks for watching.